Today we are going to continue learning about significant figures. So just to recap, what is a significant figure? Well, the word significant first. If someone said something was significant to you, it would be important to you. It would mean something. So significant figure are the most important numbers in the number given. They are usually the largest and they represent the value of the number the best. Now last time we looked at rounding to one significant figure. Remember, if you are given a decimal that starts with zeros, then the first significant figure would be the first non-zero number, the first digit that has value to it. So we're just going to recap by having a look at a couple of examples rounding to one significant figure first. Remember, because we are rounding, we still need to use our rounding rules. So remember, 4 or less, it stays the same. 5 or more, it will round the number up. So number 1, we have 3,785. So we're looking for one significant figure. So our significant figure, like we said, is the largest. It's the one that represents the number the best. So our significant figure is our 3,000. Just like rounding, we need to look at the place value after it. So we need to look into that hundreds column and we have a 7. Well, 7 is 5 or more, so we want to round up. So this 3,000 will round up to 4,000. So rounded to one significant figure using our approximately equal to sign, it will round to 4,000. Notice you only have one number that's a non-zero number and you have to keep the value of the number. So because it was a 3,000 in our question, we want to keep it as a 4,000. It rounded up, but it still needs to be 1,000. Question 2, you have 0.0643. So just like we said, we want the first non-zero number. This first zero isn't really significant. We need it there to keep our place value correct, but it doesn't mean anything as such. It's just 0 units. So our first significant figure will be our first non-zero number. So our significant figure is the 600ths. Just the same as rounding, as always, we need to look into the column after it to decide whether it rounds up or it stays the same. It's a 4. 4 or less stays the same. So you want to keep it the same. But you do not need to write these two numbers here. So your final answer is going to be 0.06. If you wrote 2 zeros at the end of that to replace the 4 and 3, your answer would be wrong then, because you're making those zeros significant because they don't need to be there. So your final answer for that one is just 0.06. It stays the same, it stays as 0.06. You don't need to write anything after it when it's a decimal. Question 3, 9.89. So remember, to one significant figure. So our significant figure is our 9 and it's in our units. So we've got 9 units. We need to look at the place value after it. So you look at the 8/10ths. It's an 8. So 5 or more, we round up. So that 9 needs to round up to a 10. So approximately equal to 10. Now some of you might think, well wait there, this is 2 digits. You've got a 1 and the 0 counts. But when you're rounding 9 up, 9 has to round to 10. So your 10, the only significant figure here is the 1. Okay, next few examples, then we're going to round to 2 significant figures. So this time you want to find your 2 most important numbers in the question, and then you want to round just like we have with one significant figure. So our first example, we have 825. So our first significant figure is our 8. Our second significant figure is the number after it, so our 2. And then we want to look to round. So you've got 820 that's significant, and we want to decide whether it's going to stay the same or round up. Look at the place value after it. It's a 5, so 5 we round up. So that 20 is going to round up to the next 10. So it's not going to stay as 820, it's going to round up to 830. So our 8 is our first significant figure, our 3 is our second, and you need the 0 there to keep the value of the number similar to what it was in the question. Question 2, so we have 76,500. 421. So our first significant figure is our 7, our second is our 6. Just like we have done, we need to round, so look at the place value of the next column. So our 4 or less, it stays the same. So this number is going to be approximately equal to, the 7 and the 6 are going to stay the same, but remember it's not just 76, this was 76,000, so we need to add 3 zeros on the end. Remember, we don't want to leave it as 76. It was 70,000 and 6,000, so you need to add those 3 zeros with our big numbers. Number 3 then, 2 significant figures again. So our first significant figure is our 9. And some of you might be thinking, well, zeros aren't significant figures. However, that is only when it starts with a 0. Once you've had a non-zero number, all numbers are significant after that. So our 9 is significant, and so is our 0 here. So we have the number 90. So it'll either stay as a 90 or it'll round up to 91. If we look at the number after it, it's a 0. 4 or less, it stays the same. So 90.09 is approximately equal to 90. Now again, we do not want to put our decimal point down and add 2 zeros, because we don't need to, and if you do, you're saying they are significant. Your 2 significant figures here are your 9 and that 0 units. If you added another one, you're saying it's significant. Question 4, so we have 0.8254. So rounding to 2 significant figures. Remember, if a decimal starts with zeros, then they are not significant. So our first significant figure is our 8, and our second is our 2. Look into the place value after to decide whether it rounds up or if it stays the same. So we look into the column here, it's a 5. So 5 or more, we need to round up. So 0.82, remember it's either going to be the 82 or the 83. I know we don't read it as 0.83, but you can think like that when rounding. So your 2 is going to round up to that 3. So it's going to be approximately equal to 0.83. Again, don't add any extra zeros here, they are not needed. And example 5, we have 4.989. So we want 2 significant figures. So our most important number, our first significant figure, is our 4. And our second is our 9/10, the number straight after it. So we've got 4.9. Look at the value after. So we've got an 8. 5 or more, we round up. So 8, higher than 5. So we want to round up. So it's going to be approximately equal to 4.9 is going to go up to 5. But 5 on its own isn't okay, because that's just one significant figure. So what sometimes we think it looks like is, imagine it as a 49, imagine that point isn't there, then you need to go up to 50 and put the point back in. So you have to have 5.0. That's your first significant figure, that's your second significant figure. Again, don't add another one because it would count as a third significant figure. So just leave it as 5.0. If you had just 5 on its own, then that would only be one significant figure, so it wouldn't be correct. Finally then, we're going to have a look at rounding to 3 significant figures now. So using the knowledge from our 1 significant figure and 2, we're going to build up to 3. So question 1, we have 8,631. So our first significant figure is that 8,000, our second is the 6, and our third is the 3. So we've got 8,630 as our significant figures. Again, look at the place value after the third significant figure. It's in our units, it's a 1, so 4 or less, it's going to stay the same. So that 8,630 is going to stay the same. So 8, 6, 3, and we have to put the 0 there to keep the value of the number the same here. Second one, we've got 30,755. So remember, 3 significant figures. So our first significant figure is the 3. Remember what we said, the 0 counts here because it hasn't started with a 0, it started with a 3. So we've got our first significant figure as the 3, then the 0, and our third significant figure is the 7. So we've got 3, 0, 7 as our 3 significant figures. Look at the place value after, it's a 5. So 5 or more, we round up. So that 307 bit is going to round up to 308. Remember that 3 is in our 10,000s, so it's 30,800. Keep the value of the number the same. Question 3 then, so we've got 28.88. So again, rounding to 3 significant figures. So our first significant figure is our 2 in our tens, and our second is our 8 in our units, and our third is our 8 in our tenths. It doesn't matter that you're going past that decimal point, it doesn't make any difference. It's the first 3 most valuable numbers, the ones that represent the number the best. So you've got 28.8 as your 3 significant figures. Again, we need to round, so look at the number after. It's an 8 straight after it, so 5 or more, we round up. So that 28.8, remember this is the number that's going to change. It's going to go up to 28.9. And you can see the 3 significant figures in there, and we don't need to add any extra zeros because they're not needed. So you've represented the number perfectly there without any extra digits. Don't add any extra zeros on the end. Example 4 then, so we've got 0.001104, and we want to round to 3 significant figures. So again, remember, we don't, if they start with a 0, they're not significant. So our first significant figure is this 1, our second significant figure is this one, and then remember the zeros count because you've got a non-zero number as significant already. So our first 3 significant figures are this 110. Okay, so then we want to round. So all of this is going to stay exactly the same. I sometimes cover up that 4 and imagine that it's not there. All that number will either stay the same or it will round up. Then we look at the place value after. So this is where we need to look at the 4. 4 or less, it stays the same. So you're keeping this whole value, this whole decimal the same, except we do not need the 4 there. So it's going to be approximately equal to 0.00110. You need this 0 here because it's significant. Do not add another one where the 4 was because we don't need it. Last example then, so we have 2.095. So again, to 3 significant figures. So our first significant figure is the 2. Remember, the 0 now counts because you've got a non-zero number as significant, and the 9. So we've got 3 significant figures as 2.09. Look at the place value after, decide whether you're rounding up or staying the same. The place value is a 5. 5 or more, we want to round up. So we've got 2.09. So remember that 9 is going to go up to a 10. And like I said, sometimes it's nice to think of it like, imagine the decimal point wasn't there. 209, 1 higher, 210. So 2.095 is going to approximately equal to 2.10. There's your 1, 2, 3 significant figures rounded to 3 sig